Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hamster's Hobby Hang. We're back at it. Watching Taskmaster. Oh man, it's been years since I've watched it, but I freaking love Taskmaster. Hello, Tom. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh man. I'll tell you what, busy times at the forge. I'm painting a lot of caverns. It's happening. Exciting stuff. Oh yes, we got new overlays. Very cool, very cool. There was one where the Caverns logo was bigger without the battle hamster, and I was like, we gotta have the battle hamster. Oh, James Acaster is my favorite. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Caverns Reforged. No new sculpts, just lots of new paint. But we're still also chugging away on Perilous, so new stuff on the docket for sure. And on the desk. My desk is a mess. Well, that's always true, actually, but... And honestly, I got a bit of a cave vibe going on here personally, too, because I just moved into a studio. It's very small. That's what I first thought when I read the comment. I was like, yeah, it is. It's pretty cave-like. But then, yeah, the overlays. Oh, the new place is good. It's very close to Dwarven Forge, so I walk, so that's nice. Right now it's chaos. So I have to put it together a little bit. But we got the desk hobby hang ready. That's what's important for Thursdays, right? The rest is a bit of an obstacle course right now. So I think there needs to be a little bit of a liquidation. It's my old place I shared. Had a little more stuff in it, so I think I just have to... No miniatures, of course, are going away. No, I might actually have to get some models off my hands locally. I'm considering it. Mostly Warhammer. I have enough armies. Yeah, it's an extended process. I actually did the big move with Tyler, Chris, and Miles in the middle of March. And then it was Adepticon. And then I've mostly been like helping Katie out of the old place and Dolly. And you know, we gotta clean up and stuff, so it's been a heck of a couple months. Is that possible? Not in my heart of hearts. That's why I haven't done it yet. That's why I haven't done it yet. But I just trying to be realistic. I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to paint everything that I have in a lifetime. I did remember to grab the paints I used for my bases on these Doom guys. Suppose I'll start with that. I need to get some paint on the palette. Yeah, converting old hobby money to new hobby money, exactly. Oh, yes. My stabby friend. Actually, this guy does have a name. I think he's a named character. There's like a solo co-op PvE like campaign thing. We looked it up last time, but I forgot. But basically what I'm learning is like these models have profiles, like especially this bigger guy, play him as the profile. But I feel like I could just play any of these models like with the right loadout because they can have different gear. So it's like if I play a guy with 2 daggers, like it's gonna be this guy every time, you know, even though it's not like his main profile. And this guy's big stabby. He's slashy and stabby. Look at that. Okay, let's get some paint out. Sorry, I was running from the studio. Had to chow down a little bit. The Guild. No, I haven't. Actually, you know what? I did a commercial last year for New York State Lottery. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It's like on my Instagram. I don't know if it's not on my model's Instagram, so maybe not. But it's kind of, the bit is like there's an old-timey guy and then me, like the sort of like obnoxious like new era guy, and the actor that played the old-timey guy is in the Guild. He's in a bunch of stuff actually, but no, his name is Brian Keene. I think he was in the Guild. Serious Stag Beetle energy with the army guy. I love that. That reminds me, I gotta play the second Hollow Knight, Silk Song. I bought that and like played it for a couple hours, and I freaking love Hollow Knight, but I haven't had a chance to really dive into Silk Song. I've been playing Elden Ring again a little bit. I haven't had a ton of time, but it was kind of a strange feeling to be like, oh man, I'm feeling Elden Ring as like a comfort game in a stressful time. I was like, wait a minute, this is a stressful game though. It's been fun though. I didn't finish the DLC when it came out. It's basically like a whole second game. So I was like, okay, I want to go through and explore everything that has to offer, so I'm jumping back into that. What's the Guild, though? I've never seen it. Okay, paint on palette. What? I'm getting distracted. It's my fault. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm thinking of the same thing then. This guy, I don't think this guy was in it. Okay, I'm thinking of something else. Isn't there like a TV series that's like period that's on like a streaming, it's like made by a Hulu or something or Netflix that's called The Guild? Maybe I'm completely wrong. So never mind. But that sounds awesome. Hey, a group of MMO players though. I'm into that. That's hilarious. Oh dear. There's a freaking ant on my desk. I'm on the ground floor, so there's more. You're always gonna see stuff here and there in New York City, but it's a little more common down here. I got some traps I have to set up. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of. Oh, kickstarting a movie, that's cool. But man, I had my time with WoW, certainly. I had my time with WoW. I really like the idea of an MMO. And like, I would love to be a super committed player if I could, but it's just not in the cards for me. And I never had like a group, and I could like join a guild, but I didn't have like a friend group that played, so I was mostly a solo MMO player, which I had fun doing too. And you can like match up, but I had a lot of fun with Guild Wars 2. My buddy was just in the chat today, so it reminded me because he got his wisdom teeth pulled. When I was in high school, I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and you know, I was really out of it afterwards from like, you know, the medicine and stuff. And so my mom is trying to be very nice. She's like, "I'm gonna run to Target. Do you need anything?" I turned around and I said, I need Wrath of the Lich King for World of Warcraft and latest that expansion." Looking back, I can't believe I said that. But then the most surprising thing was she was like, "Okay." Cool mom moment. And so I just sat there for like a week, just like completely out of it, just leveling in World of Warcraft. Yeah, it takes up all your life. Neverwinter Nights I tried a little bit, that was cool. Not a ton. I know that it's much beloved. What do I need out here next? Let's see. Yeah, I get that. That happens with me for a lot of games that I know I'll enjoy, but like Claire Obscura recently that happened, where it's like I'll play like 10 hours and love it, and then something will come up and I have to put like pretty much all gaming down, and then I don't go back to it. But what was cool about Guild Wars 2 is how it rewarded you for exploring and stuff, so like, especially as a solo, you really could just run around and see the cool maps and stuff. And get a little bit of a reward for it. Okay, I gotta get this out of my... Sorry. Roller coaster time. Okay, so let me first do a little something on this base. I kind of left a couple areas on each model with like less texture for these little pools. Or sometimes they've even just been, you know, if there happens to be an area with like a little divot in the texture, then I'll put a pool there. Oh, sending off some terrain trays. Alright. What you playing on Switch? Do you have the Switch too? I didn't get the Switch 2. I have a Switch 1, but I honestly don't play it a lot. Need to get a hair dryer out here. I don't really have a good way to have it out here, but my impatience has ruined me and I pulled off some of the white. So I'm just gonna wait on that. What's going on with you, big man? Oh, there's like a fur thing in the front too. Okay. Huh. Walked 6 miles. Holy gosh. That's impressive. I've been kind of into doing this weird greenish thing for certain metals, especially on like a rugged sort of model. It's definitely stylized, more so than realistic, but I like it. And it's supposed to be kind of like a toxic world, so, you know, the metal's reflecting the toxic environment or something. Yeah, I gotta be kind of careful with my hand position when I'm painting once in a while. So I've definitely had some days where the joints are not happy. Yeah, that's cool. Corrosion armor. Hello, Mace. haven't haven't seen him yet. Uh-huh. All right. Talk to you later. Oh, the flappy bits on the hips. I don't know what they're called. They show up fairly commonly, don't they? Gonna have to draw this edge. It's not as easy like the print or something to catch it as the other side. It's probably a little shinier than it would be in a truly toxic fog world, but more fun to paint it this way. At least to me. Alright, I gotta move on fairly soon from this metal. Yeah. The more you know, the more you know about all the little tiny armor. Oh, there's a whole plate I didn't... do. Alright, let's see what we got here. Oh, I forgot. Let's keep this up. I'm imagining lots of smoggy sunburn. But, you know, if you're gonna go out into the wastes with armor with no shirt on, hey, kinda asking for it, huh? Maybe we can get it looking kind of blistery almost. Yeah, wisdom as a dump stat, yeah. Make the skin kind of rough looking, hopefully. Kind of funny because it's kind of all the colors that I normally go to when I'm like making mistakes on skin tones. Like, oh, it's too yellow, it's too red. It's like, okay, that's kind of perfect here. Thank you, thank you. Welcome on in. Just kind of doing more of a stippling thing. I don't necessarily want to make the skin tone look lighter, but I want like little marks. If I can. Kind of want it to be just absolutely fried by the sun. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's one of the things I enjoy practicing is just, okay, how can, look at the model, how can we break down the steps so we can get some good impact in a short time, which is kind of my job at Dwarven Forge, is how much impact can we get in a small number of steps. So there you go, I've had some practice. A lot of times on these paint jobs on Hobby Hang, it's kind of like picking your battles. It's like, okay, I know the armor's gonna have a good visual impact, probably the skin, so let's focus on that and go heavy detail. And then like the boots and like the pack and stuff, I just did like 2 steps on it, you know? Make sure you can see it, but other than that, just move on. Let the other elements do the heavy lifting. Oh, these like tree stump things are cool because they were just like on the supports. They were just holding weapon options and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that might be kind of cool if they look like fallen trees, because they kind of had like a texture on them, almost like they were sculpted. So I was like, huh, I'll use that for something. Just putting a glaze of this stuff on it and then rinsing the brush and pushing it out of the center toward the edges. Leave behind some of that stuff. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is have full control over the highlights on the metal so that I can make it all dramatic and flashy, you know? But I'm glad it looks like metal. I appreciate that. It's a good sign. Yeah, I agree. I kind of like how it looks better. I like that when you look at the model, it looks painted because it is painted, you know. Metallic paints, it's just like I've had more issues with them. Like, you know, you're painting and like a couple specks might get on an area that's not metal, and then there's like a big shiny dot hiding from you. Nicked that edge with the skin tone. Good old-fashioned yard work. Yeah, and I think there's still a lot you can do with metallic paints where you're basically like still exaggerating and precisely placing like light and shadow with darker or lighter metallic paints, or like, you know, glazing them down and doing a similar thing with metallics, and I think that looks cool, but I just don't need the metallic pigment myself. I think, you know, I just like full control of how I exaggerate it instead of like letting the practical effect do anything for me. But some people don't like non-metallic because they don't think it looks like metal, because there's no way to do it realistically. You know, because the reflections on metal are based on like the viewer's eye level and view, where like the reflections move if you move when you're looking at it. And so like on a 3D model it doesn't really work. Like it works kind of on 2D traditional paint because you're picking the snapshot angle. So some people are kind of annoyed by that when you're turning it around and it looks a little strange, but that's why I think if you make it exaggerated and dramatic and stylized, it actually works in your favor a little bit. Oh yeah, we had a day last week where it was just raining all day long. One thing I think worked kind of nicely on the highlights on the shoulders here is like, you know, because I normally, when I'm trying to do my sort of dramatic exaggeration, I'm like kind of picking multiple snapshot views. It's normally like if you imagine 4 spotlights, like the 4 diagonals, like directionally, because it's like the dome of the sky. But where I would kind of like see the illusion break is when you are turning it around and like you can see them both. And I think sort of just connecting them a little bit with some blurry light bouncing sort of does something cool, where it's like it's a little more believable rather than doing like kind of 2 pinpoint reflections. Kind of this connection I think is doing a cool thing for me. I don't know. This one's a little less clean that way, but... kind of fuzz it out a little bit. Got too much moisture going on right now, that's the problem. Kind of running out of paper towel. Yeah, you can see the first layer of the yellow ink is like really fragile, like it really has to dry. Because my brush scrubbing around is pulling it off. But that's often true of inks and washes. There's thin layers, so even the tiny pressure will sort of rip it right up. Salt Lake crust effect. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I dig that. Most proud of painting. Do you mean like Dwarven Forge? Anything, huh? I'm trying to think. It's like I have my favorites, but they're not like necessarily what I think my absolute best is. Like the big one I can think of I've shown on here multiple times is like way back on Hobby Hang we did a dwarf holding a torch, and it's kind of supposed to be like in moonlight, so it's a really low burning torch in a dark environment. I think the illusion just sells really well, and it was one of those where it was like started and finished on Hobby Hang, and so it was just like going with the flow, being sketchy, but I think it turned out really nice. And it's still, people like friends back home that follow that Instagram are like, I'll still randomly hear about that model, even though I can look at it and be like, well, if I were to like really touch it up and finish it, I would do this and this and this, like to make it cleaner. But the effect, like the design of the effect is like really cool. And there's a lot of things I still reference for like fire effects that I like for it. Sometimes it's easy to get into like tutorial mode, or like just like what you think you imagine an effect to look like, but really it's like, well, it's not. That's just kind of the assumed. Like basically what I'm referring to is like, I love how orange the flame is, and there's not a lot of like full yellow, because it's not, or white, it's not like a super hot flame. It's like sometimes, you know, fire doesn't just have to be fully bright burning. But for Dwarven Forge, one of my favorites is probably the Runes of Callantir, because that was the first like full terrain sector that I designed as like the lead. Where like all the runes are gonna be in this scheme. When I started, I was mostly just doing little accessories and stuff. Well, when I would really started, I was just painting bulk. Not designing anything. That's how I was first hired. That was just supposed to be for 1 month to get, you know, the campaign bulk ready to go so it could launch. Then they kept me around, and I started painting the miniatures. This was Caverns Deep. And then little accessories. And then I went to Hellscape, where it was just mostly some of the larger accessories and like side pieces. There was some terrain, like the big Hellgate I did. And then all the little models. And so then Wildlands, we added the ruins, Callantir. So that was when it was like all me on that. Oh, I really like the Quildren tree, that like magical orange tree. I think that turned out really nicely for like, it looks natural, like it looks kind of like an organic thing, but still otherworldly in a way. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you like it. I really like that one. I love it as a piece too. I really love the standalone trees. Like really anything you can just, because I'm a war gamer, right? So anything you can smack down and on its own, I like. I really love designing Sinister, just going full atmospheric instead of like any kind of realism, since we sort of hit the generalized, like what you'd imagine a realistic sort of dungeon to be in a fantasy world, at least, you know, which that scheme nailed it. So it's cool to just like shift the design priority a little bit. Oh, uh the basilisk. That was fun. That's probably one of my favorite miniature like creatures that we've done. And I remember like designing the basilisk and being like, oh, that's awesome, like can't get cooler than that. And then Nate was like, for the LED version, make like a cooler one even, and kind of like a Pokemon evolution, you know, like, okay, what does this look like if it's even stronger and better and flashier? It's like, all right, that was fun. Oh yeah, so yeah, that, I mean, it was a stroke of luck. My buddy that was a bartender, someone who worked there, they asked them like, hey, weird question, do you know any miniature painters? And they're like, I do actually. uh and so they asked me to send in a portfolio because they were interviewing art students who were in art school for painting. um and I was like, my what? So I had an old YouTube video from high school, like, hey, what's up, guys? These are my Space Marines and stuff. So I managed to find that on YouTube, muted the sound in my prepubescent voice, you know, cut it apart, and sent that in. And they're like, all right, come on in. And I hadn't painted anything because I had gone to college, moved back home, moved to New York City. So I hadn't really painted in like 6+ years. But then they had a painted piece, like caverns, and a blank piece, and little cups of paint. They're like, okay, make that look like that. And I kind of like saw the Matrix. I was like, I know how they did it. And then, you know, Nate was kind of like, that your stuff looks really good, man. We just like need the pace to be up a little bit. And I thought what we were painting was what you guys get. I didn't know they were prototypes. So I was like, yeah, I know, I'm trying to do a good job. And then one day, Nate was like, these aren't like fitting exactly, so we need you to get on the belt sander and shave off like a millimeter on the side of this, this one piece. And I was like, are people gonna be okay with that? Like, what the heck? So I put on like the full hazmat suit. That's when I finally figured it out. They're like, no, this is just for the crowdfunding campaign as a prototype. But so once I was done with that bulk, Nate was like, do you paint like miniatures, like little miniatures? Because again, they were interviewing art students. I was like, that's all I've ever painted. I've never painted anything else. So yeah, like the Minotaur and the little rat thief guy I did, and a bunch of other little tiny bits. The little, I want to say flash dogs. The little teleporty hound things. Moved on to Hellscape, where I did some of those accessories, the little like body on the ritual table, and the little like hands holding the orbs. Oh, and that big like gargoyle that's like half stone, half purple, like demon thing. Hellgate, all like kind of the spiky, sort of scattery bits. And I mean, yeah, the rest is history. Yeah, the Blink Dogs. I heard your favorite was all the brown Lowtown items. Look, I love Lowtown and Cities. It's one of those sets that it shines with like all the features that you can build. You know? Boy, you can make some really cool stuff out of it, and there's not too many pieces that on their own stand alone as like, wow. You know? which is the strength of that system. You can get really creative with like the features you can make. It's like you can make your own showpiece with all the granular bits. And that's not really true. I mean, you throw together a wizard's tower pretty standard and it looks awesome, you know. But yeah, I mean, and in between the campaigns, you know, when they're like, we want you around, but you know, we need to find you something to do because we're done painting for the time being. You know, I would organize pieces, all the archives of the pieces, stuff like that. I would break down the cardboard boxes, you know. Anything that needed to be done, I would try to handle. And then I started, you know, you started seeing me in the YouTube videos, the painting guides, that kind of thing. So this stream in 2020 is when that started, like the lockdown. It was like, but right before Dwarven Forge, I had experimented with streaming like video games and stuff. So I had a setup for it. So we wanted to start on the anvil. And then, you know, we were kind of like, well, is it weird to do like one show a week? Like the channel is barely live. I was like, listen, I'm locked down. I'm sitting in my little L desk. I work here and then I pivot and I play here. Like this is where I'm existing. So if you want me to turn on a camera, I have a bunch of miniatures we can paint. So Hamster's Hobby Hang was born. So I started doing that. Yeah, in the last couple years it's been busy because we've been a little better about like how can we progress multiple projects at the same time. So it's like, because paint is just one step on the train, right? So it's like, okay, we've got a bunch of painting done, and while that was happening, new sculpts were being made, so now those new things shift to paint, you know. There was some amount of time where we wanted to do Warhammer photos, like have Warhammer in photographs and stuff. So I did have a brief amount of time where I was painting Warhammer armies, so that was fun. But at any time, you know, terrain for a project comes up, I'd switch to that. But yeah, the weird little poison base adds a ton of personality. I like that. So a couple more done for 1490 Doom. Well, honestly, most of the armies were my personal stuff, like the models were. I just had them because I wanted to be a Warhammer player. And so we got like the launch box for 40k, like the Leviathan box, and then we got, you know, the other Age of Sigmar box, and that came out. But I had a bunch of like the previous launch box for Sigmar with like the orcs and the Stormcast, and then the next launch box had Stormcast, so I just painted a bunch, and then I joined my local game store as a Warhammer player, and then I got Nate into Warhammer. Obviously, he's known about Warhammer, but he didn't have an army, but he kind of always, I think, wanted to have an army. So we started playing Warhammer at the local game store. Bye, Hippo. Thanks for hanging out. But yeah, but that got me going, like painting up the half of the launch box. You know, I was like, well, I got a bunch more Stormcast or orcs. I'll paint them up on the weekends and stuff. Get an army going. Oh yeah, it's good folks over there. Great folks at Dwarven Forge. And you shall see them, of course, on the Anvil next week. I think we'll wrap up here pretty quick. Segway. You know, I don't know why we wouldn't have on the anvil. I'm looking at the calendar. It's on the calendar, so yeah, smooth, right? How many of this set the Doom guys? Well, so a warband in this game is like 3 models, and at Adepticon I bought 9 of them. So I have 3 of them painted at the office, and 2 of them have like a little model for like an ability effect. Like one of them has he's called the Beekeeper, and he has a swarm of bees flying out of a corpse. And the other guy is the Scavenger. He has like a little bear trap thing. You can place a trap. So I got those 5 done, and now these. I don't think Chris has gotten around to his just yet. He only has... I don't think he has quite as many. But yeah, for my guys for Doom, it looks like I just have these 4. Really? Oh, that's not bad. This guy I like. He's kind of cool. Oh, this guy's cool too. I like his helmet. So that's what we have for Doom. Then I have a couple done for Bushido. And I actually kind of want to use these for Hametsu, which is like a PvE game, like a solo co-op PvE game. These I did pretty fast, and I think they could use like a couple extra highlights here and there. They're not bad. I'm glad like they're painted. I would play with them, but just like one extra step, like 5 to 10 minutes of a little punch up. But those are cool. That bottle doesn't look too bad. A little reflection on right here. But I have more of those here assembled on the desk. Yeah, that bear trap seems cool. That guy. And then finally, this was from an earlier Adepticon, the Bushido, but the Doom and then Dead by Lead, I got at this Adepticon. So last Hobby Hang I did one quick little cowboy gunslinger. Everyone thought it was Chris because it's a guy with facial hair. But yeah, bunch of gunslingers. They all came in like little baggies. These cowboys are all one piece, like resin prints. Most of the Doom guys had weapon options, kind of on a little resin support like sprue, not like a full complete frame, but just like a little tab. And these guys, the metal guys, they had some assembly going, but they're all kind of mono pose. So it was all... I had to clip them off. These are metal. I had to clip them off the tabs, but... Yeah, it does kind of look Lovecraftian. Call of Cthulhu or something. Of course, if you have a gun in Call of Cthulhu, it's like it has 3 bullets, and you're like, if you're pulling that out, you probably should just run away. And I love it for that. It's like a lot of investigation in Call of Cthulhu and like detective type mystery solving. Like low combat, I mean, you know, you can build like your strengths for many different skills, but it's mostly using, I guess, utility skills more so than just like heroic fantasy. Like, let's just bash them. Let's kill them with the power of whatever we're all good at, you know, which is also fun, but you should always just run away, really. I will say, even in the Heroic Fantasy 5e campaign, we have had it where it's like we've encountered this bully of an NPC, and it's like, you know what, screw that guy, we're just gonna fight him. It's like, that's the big bad of the campaign. You're like level 4. Okay, if you're doing this, he's throwing like level a billion stuff at us, and we start like, so we 2 people take a hit and almost kills them. We're like, we have to flee now. And so my character, in a flash of glory, martyred himself, fending off like, you all run, I'll hold the hallway, and went down in a blaze of glory. And they eventually got a boat and named it after him. Yeah, exactly. Which I'm totally cool dying that way. That's a cool narrative moment, you know, like cinematic scene. So that was fun. But yeah, I think we'll call it here. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and I will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye.